What up, people of the world? Welcome back to Knell of St. Godfrey. For some reason, the last episode just randomly cut out in the middle of the stream. I have no idea why. I don't understand why it did it. But we ended up losing half the stream, which is really infuriating because we made quite a lot of progress. Fortunately, though, this is the sort of game which allows you to go back and repeat chapters that you've already completed. So that is precisely what we're going to do. We're going to continue. We're going to go back to day 5 and we're going to restart from the chapter that it cut off on, and then just go through all the chapters that were missed at the end of the stream, which is about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours worth of content. Really irritating that I'm having to go over it again, but like I said, I'm pleased and grateful that I am able to at least go over it again. So let's see, that's the first one which we did. And this one we did as well, Chevrolet Fuchsia. So of all the day ones, you've got all these to do as well. Yeah, so we have to do all of these again. So let's just start. We were about halfway through this chapter when it cut off. I have no idea why it did. Anyway, Widden, I made this guy Irish, didn't I? You need to tell us what happened, Father Turner Keshtazai. The blonde man smooths over his voice with a reassuring tone. He glances at his partner, Urchrin. He nods, allowing Widden to take the role of a good cop.
Kashlin.
Look, I want to help you avoid the gallows, but the only way I can help you right now is if you tell me what happened, you get me? So tell me, why were you found unconscious at the crime scene? Whose knife is it?
Jostar Klors telling me?
Or just tell me exactly what you saw before passing out, alright? All he gets in response is the priest's contemptuous silence. Widden forces his anger down. He turns over the case files, and the only sound in the room is the rustling of papers sliding over each other. They have been chasing the killer, who has been linked to nearly a dozen murder cases for the better part of 2 months. Each body they found was more stomach-churning than the last. To make matters worse, their only suspect is the wandering priest found at the last crime scene. But the man shows no resistance, accepting everything they've done to him in silence, as if his soul had already abandoned him. The trial is on the 17th? Widden falters, taking longer than usual to switch his expression back to his classic smile.
Hear me, Star.
Yes, but it's too late not to but it's not too late to confess you. Guess I won't make it in time for Amnesty Day. Widden presses down absently on his pen, almost ruining the report when ink spurts everywhere. He sighs deeply as he comes to terms with the fact that the priest is unlikely to cooperate any further, and his attempt at a peaceful negotiation was in vain. He puts the cap on his pen, issuing a signal for his partner to take over.
Darfik.
You're wasting our time. Oh, we don't have as many karma points as we did last time. Last time we had 4 karma points. But I think we'll still be able to make the same decisions as I made last time. I'm going to go for that. Urchrin stands up and yanks a document from Widden's hand. Then he snatches out a few photos and slams them down in front of Turner. He's read the case file 100 times and knows it by heart.
Sigh.
Look! Turner keeps his chin up, a scornful expression on his face as he lets the eye which he can still open drift downward. Even as he scans the photos of the grisly crime scene, his lips remain quiet. Horrible is an understatement. The skin around the victim's upper body and arms was flayed, exposing the hardened and bluish flesh underneath. Their intestines had been removed. The skin on the victim's back was neatly dissected, exposing a row of chalky human bones. Each body had been mutilated. 2 vertebrae were missing from the body found on November the 5th. The victim on November the 14th had been skinned, and the one from the 22nd was gutted and hollowed. As for the most recent one, it may be faster to describe what's left instead of what's missing. The murderer is highly skilled, having done no damage to the surrounding muscle tissue. Despite their certainty that the same person was responsible for all the murders, the police found no pattern on the culprit's choice of souvenirs.
Salerno.
Talk! Urchin grabs Turner's collar with enough strength to nearly lift him up, his eyes sharp as razors. Turner stares straight back at the detective. Anyone can see that Turner had a rough couple of days after his arrest. His bronze skin does little to hide the bruises on the face.
Stiff fuck.
Don't waste your time. The wandering priest smiles, his tone is full of contempt, and his words mock the detective as though he's deliberately trying to enrage him. We're going to beat the suspect, because that's what we did last time. Urchin clenches his fist and punches the man in the gut. The stubborn suspect grimaces. He takes 2 steps before bumping into the corner of the table and falling to the ground. His hands are still cuffed behind him, equally covered in bruises. The wound in his left arm reopens from the impact and blood flows out once more. The detective looks down at the priest, who struggles to catch his breath. He bangs on the wall in frustration before dropping his arm and unclenching his fingers. Urchin lights the cigarette in his mouth with a match. He's frustrated by the lack of progress and the suspect's dismissive attitude.
Yo.
Yo, well, good day, Detective Borsalaz. I take it things aren't going well with your interrogation. He spots his colleague Tracer and several other police officers walking in his direction with some prisoners. The man had questioned Turner yesterday, and Urchin believes he was responsible for quite a few of the priest's injuries. Whedon is still in there. He ignores Tracer's taunts, moving to the side to make way for his colleagues. Then you better get back to work, puppy. Try not to screw up this time. The officers laugh amongst themselves. They take the gangsters away while intentionally pushing past Urchin and shoving his shoulder on the way by, reiterating how unwelcome the Skyen was. That's just the back tooltip for Skyans if you want to pause and read. I've already read it a few times.
Close stealth mean?
What's the matter with you? Whedon exits the interrogation room shortly after and notes that his partner is clenching a broken cigarette.
Darkler.
Did he talk? Nope. The priest's sealed tighter than a clam. You should have tried throwing in a few more punches. He deserves a lot worse for what he's done.
Shang Fo.
We haven't confirmed he's the murderer yet. We don't have any kind of hard evidence against him. Besides, considering the state he's in, I doubt violence will get him to talk.
Karoslin.
We don't need any more evidence. We give our report as is, and they send him to the gallows.
Karoslin.
He was caught at the crime scene with a knife, right next to the corpse, Urchin. As far as I'm concerned, that sounds like a closed case. And that's why Urchin is troubled. His instincts tell him that it's not as simple as it seems, but the clues paint a clear picture.
Darkler.
That's all well and good, but you saw the state of the crime scene. Something doesn't add up here. He recalls the photos of the crime scene. At first glance, they're as messy as the gang fights. But after a closer inspection, the small details only magnify the sense of uncanny. Things just feel too clean for a back alley brawl. All the wounds, whether on the victim's neck, gut, or the flayed ones on the arms, were done precisely, which is extremely horrifying considering the state of the body. And the victim wasn't a kid or an old man, but a normal-sized adult about the same height and build as Turner. At the crime scene, the nearby garbage bags, barrels full of fish bones, and other tools were left undisturbed. There was no sign of any struggle. Whedon understands Urchin's point, but all he does is shrug in response. The question was no doubt valid, but Whedon believed it was a waste of time to try applying logic to a lunatic.
Klar?
So?
Twiline.
So we need more information, starting with an autopsy. Whedon rolls his eyes, unsurprised by his partner's stubbornness. Yaron is a good cop, the type who would always fulfill his duty, unlike most of the others here.
Yotran.
Well, you heard the director. We have to get an explanation out to the people as soon as possible. With the gang conflicts growing increasingly fierce by the day and a serial killer on the loose, the reputation of the Illy City Police Department has plummeted to rock bottom. Oops, didn't mean to click on more. Now that they finally have a suspect, the department is eager to redeem their honour with the priest's life, even if it means tarnishing the church's reputation. Urchin knows what he means. The victims of Thurner's alleged crimes died quietly, no one has reported them missing, and no families have come forward to claim the bodies. They have their suspects, and trying to solve a case that was already solved is a waste of time.
Darfik.
This case can't end like this. But he can't let it go. Even if he gains nothing from pursuing this case any further. Look, I understand your need for closure, but the last case you got hung up on almost turned into a war zone, literally. As soon as he speaks, his partner's face sinks, and Widden sees the weight in his steel grey eyes. It's as if he's facing the whip Friars used. It's as if he's facing the whip Friars used to punish sinners. Yet whose soul is it whipping, his or Urtran's? Look at that look! Look at that cheeky sideways look to the camera. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Kashlin.
He's being a wind-up merchant. No offense, but it's already been decided. The body's to be taken to the morgue and cremated in a couple of days. Director Passmore won't appoint a coroner, so there's no way to perform an autopsy.
Shangfo.
No.
Klar?
What? Widden lays out the facts as harshly as he can, pausing for a moment before he turns his gaze in the direction Urtran is looking.
Oi, oi.
Wait a second. Are you seriously thinking we...
Karvik Zaneto.
Yes, there's another way to get that autopsy. Looking at the Ili Medical University far away, Urtran is determined. And obviously we know that ties up with Raven coming in tomorrow on the day of the 6th to do the autopsy. So now we do this one, Arif Semhel. Finally, with a resounding click, Arif pulls away from the telegraph. Extended time spent typing leaves her stiff as she wrinkles her face while stretching. She lowers her eyes and the bulky metal telegraph from the table comes into view. Her work, just like the typewriter she uses, mechanical, monotonous, and unnecessarily complicated at times. She knows that the letters and telegrams she sends are very important. Any one of them could change a man's fate. Like a plant rotting from its roots before its leaves even have a chance to wither. The tension within Ili City has already made the headlines of many newspapers. Although the police have their dissatisfaction with the Post, their words matter little against the power of the potential coins in their bags. So I wonder if she's the independent journalist that we keep hearing so much about. The city is a bustling and complicated place, with different factions gathering to take part in the eternal play, each attempting to cultivate their own while skirmishing against others. To Aerith, this is why her workload has increased day by day since the Civil War. There's that, if you want to pause it and read it. And with that last telegram sent, there is no longer a reason for her to stay in the post office. Okay, so she works in the post office, not in the newspaper. I got confused. After taking a moment to gather up her spirits, Aerith puts on her purple coat and packs the file with letters and other notes. As she's making her way outside, Aerith catches a glimpse of a familiar figure. Shehwit Krausier is waiting outside, still wearing that slightly too formal hat, just as he was when they first met. But today she doesn't have time for it, which is a pity. She has important documents to send back to the Verithesis Order. And there's that, if you want to pause and read it. On her way out, she is confronted with a messy argument. Please. It seems like the old lady's having trouble with her mail, probably some mishap with a letter she's misplaced. It's understandable. The lost words of the letter are, unfortunately, impossible to replace. To Aerith's surprise, she discovers the woman isn't angry, but sad. Her dampened voice can hardly cover her sobs, and agony has filled her wrinkled face with tears. Turner, my son, he needs to know this. Aerith pauses for a moment, knowing her break will be postponed again. She recognizes the name the old lady just mentioned.
Svea.
Please, have some compassion.
Yelone.
I'm sorry, I really can't. Please, He's going to prison for Votru's sake. Those final words seem to take everything out of the old lady. Her voice lowers as if she accepts the fact that there is nothing she can do. I'm very sorry, but there's nothing we can do. The staff hurriedly broke free from the old lady and fled into the post office. Unable to carry the weight of agony, she was left there alone with her shoulders drooped. Hey, are you alright? My boy, I've lost my only boy.
Dear.
I knew he shouldn't have left for Illy City.
Sai.
Are you perhaps Mrs. Keshdozai, the florist? Yes. Hamidi Keshdozai raises her head in response and looks at Arif. Her hands, blessed with green fingers, were covered with tears.
Good. Shamo Firstar.
If you're trying to cut in line with a letter of yours, then I'm sorry, but I can't help you.
Moira line.
I've read about Father Turner in the paper, and I don't think anyone really believes he would do such a thing.
Moira line.
The investigation is still ongoing, so why don't you go back home? In a few days they'll catch the real culprit, and your son will be free to go. Realizing that she might have overstepped her bounds, Arif flashes a friendly smile and turns to take her leave.
Maya.
Wait!
Good.
I'm sorry, you'll have to ask a higher up regarding the letter.
Oh.
I just...
Ja.
Maybe I could phone the police station. Could you please take me to it?
Dear Svea.
Or maybe you could tell me about the tragedy in Illy City. I've been having trouble keeping up with things. I can't read, and it's all happening so fast.
Jotirk Sirits.
The police station isn't far from here. It's on the northeast side of Casely Street. I'll take you halfway.
Blocky.
Blocky. Along the way, Hamidi holds onto her arm, babbling about Turner. Arif is just relieved that she's taken her attention away from the unpleasant situation.
Dear.
The day he went to Illy City, I remember it was the last Sunday in November. I asked him to take some biscuits. It would have taken him a whole night to get there by train. He told me that there would be a lot of weddings in Illy City next month, and there aren't enough officiants to go around. He volunteered to lend a helping hand, saying it was his duty as a wandering priest to help out.
Jar Kurzar.
And just last week I got a telegram from him. How could they think Turner killed someone? Why would the police think he committed... What was it they said? It's reported that the police found him at the crime scene. I just can't believe it. He's always been such a kind boy. Hamidi wipes her pink, swollen eyes with a handkerchief and looks at Arif with a cautiously expectant gaze. Though, I suppose he could be harsh. The children of St. Godrikar would sometimes tell me that he scolded them, but it was never out of cruelty. He just...
Z.
I know. He was a strict but fair priest with a strong sense of justice. Hamidi tilts her head to the side and raises her eyebrows.
Fee.
Oh, I hardly go to the chapel myself. Just have some religious friends, that's all.
Alen.
I see. That's all right. Hamidi looks away from Arif and down at the pavement after they rounded a corner. Continuing straight ahead for 2 blocks would get them to the police station.
Jar Kurzar.
Do you know what crime he was arrested for? Is it really a murder case?
Good.
I'm not sure, sorry. I just heard that the police don't know much about the victim, and the only lead they found is Father Turner. It looks grim.
Dear.
Will he be hung? Arif slows down and turns to meet Hamidi's gaze directly. The old lady looks as stable as a house of cards. Hamidi no longer pleads for good words and happy wishes. She despairs over the newspapers that paint her son as a monster. Her final question was a desperate attempt at grasping a final answer.
Feel.
I don't know.
Kirksey.
I understand.
Good.
I'm sorry.
Alen.
No, it's fine. I can find my way to the police station from here. Arif nods. At the next street crossing they part ways. As she arrives on the opposite side of the road, Arif stops and looks back discreetly at the florist. I really love these backgrounds that they've done. The kind of faded out, unfocused backgrounds got really nice colours and palettes to them. They're really beautiful. And it has a really nice setting with the music and stuff. I'm liking this game a lot. Regret washes over her as she... Over all, her all. I think that sentence has been mistranslated. Regret washes over all of her as she turns and continues on her way. I think that's what it's trying to say. A shrill, hard-to-ignore voice calls out in her soul, echoing through her being. It shouldn't have been, and I don't know. There have had to be a better answer she could have given. So what? Should she tell the lady to prepare for the funeral, or to wait for the release of her beloved son at the prison gate tomorrow? She's powerless, unable to aid the efforts against the Ili city's crisis. The only satisfaction she'll find is in picking up the pieces when it's all said and done, before she's strong enough to make the difference. Okay, and that was Ares' story. Just a small introductory chapter to Ares. Then we got Porali Ashfilkar. Ashfilsar. On the outskirts of Tulane, where tall rows of untrimmed trees accent the small town's tranquil aura, a lonely figure saunters down the road. A man wanders down the path, his figure almost melting into the verdant scenery behind him. His cowhide boots tread gently over the dirt and gravel. As usual, he takes out a box of matches and lights a cigarette. The tobacco burns into a white smoke. He inhales deeply into his lungs, relaxing and adopting a cheerful expression. The man's jacket bounces against his waist with each step. He casually drops the cigarette and steps on the butt to extinguish its last spark. With his ash-stained fingers, he pushes through the antique wooden door. The clock on the wall chimes when the man enters. The pawnbroker sits behind the counter he's wiping down, pausing only to wave a greeting.
Hello, Dave.
Bello Day from the Holy City as usual.
Claw?
Got some new stuff? Intercepted one that was supposed to be delivered to Ili City. You're just in time. The seller just telegraphed to about it. To about it? What? The seller just telegraphed me about it. Maybe, I'm not sure. Porali nods, committing the name Ili City to memory. He raps the counter with his knuckles.
Kaya.
All in good time. Neither of the two men are skilled in making small talk. The old shopkeeper stops wiping the countertop and ducks under it to rummage around. Porali leans against the counter and fiddles with scattered envelopes and packages on the table. He shuffles the letters around like poker cards, briefly noting their senders.
Hey, boss.
Hey, put that down. I've got no money to pay you for it. What? That doesn't make any sense. You're the pawnbroker. You're not supposed to be paying him for it. He's supposed to be paying you for it. I think that's supposed to read, if you've got no money to pay for it. Oh, I see. I've got no money to pay you for it. Yeah, I'm not sure what that sentence means. I'm a bit confused. Whatever, let's move on. The owner finally straightens up and pushes a cardboard box in front of Porali.
Tiara line.
Fully certified, unopened, and the price is absolutely reasonable. The shopkeeper smiles and holds out 3 fingers, only to be met with a perfunctory response. Porali is not in a hurry to unwrap it and examines the package thoroughly. He quickly finds the deliberately folded corners, revealing 3 small numbers. 113. Looks like it's meant for him. Porali lifts the package. It's not exactly heavy, but not light enough to be easily ignored. Probably a thick stack of documents, and the very thought of it gives him a headache. But he has to open it to find out. Takes out his rolled-edged knife and does his best to slide the blade between the folds of paper.
Hey.
Hey! The shopkeeper is irritated that the package is opened without prior payment. While his eyes fixate on the package, Porali removes a hand from his pocket and pulls out a roll of bills. Then his eyes widen, but only for a moment. His face goes back to his typical indifference as he picks up the hunting knife lying in the box, observing its blade under the light. Its fine craft makes the cyan steel stream out a pale mist. As he turns it, the mist is revealed to actually just be the cold light reflected by different angles of the blade. Nevertheless, the brief moment of surprise is all that Porali needs to realize that this box contains realize what this box contains and envelops further strength. And the envelopes further strengthen his conviction.
Your line.
The vendor's certificate, definitely a guarantee of quality and authenticity. He murmurs, interrupting the owner's peddling. It's only a facade, so these commissions can flow openly and unsuspiciously from city to city, to the pawnbroker's hands and then to his own. He asks the owner for a chair and spreads out the contents on his lap to read. Underneath the records is a crucial piece of the puzzle. The new information on the wrongdoers is described by a small picture lying on the bottom of the box. Oh, it's those brothers. It's the two guys who are at the racetrack talking to the investor of the singer. Interesting. The face of the taller male piques poor eyes' interest. His chiseled face and powerful upper body are noteworthy features. He may prove to be a threat in combat. The other individual, however, seems out of place. His timid looks lack the typical intimidation, and his contributions are likely to be limited to non-physical duties. He puts the picture in his pocket and thumbs through the text, frowning before he's even finished. He's complained about it countless times, but every time he gets these files, they are filled with complex sentences and a litany of code words too difficult to understand. Is that what they prefer? To make others feel dumb? Porley heads for the counter with curses tingling on his tongue. I need a dictionary. Again? The shopkeeper puts the item he's scrubbing down on the counter with an intentional bang, making sure Porley's eyes catch it. Interested? I managed to get my hands on this old relic. I haven't been able to date it yet, but they say it's the bones of Ichesimpal. Porley squints at it with a raised brow, and the owner latches onto his curiosity.
Your line.
Look at these markings. He points to the one side of the necklace. The bony fragments are held together by a chain made of metal links. The shopkeeper's finger glides across it, and the whole chain bends in a rugged arc like the spine of a snake. This style of necklace is typically of the 13th century. It was then that the technology for standardized production finally found an outlet in factories. I don't know the process, but it's surely complex.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. These markings are particularly rough, almost sloppy. They must be an artifact created by the first factories established. Based on that, the most important feature is its material. Porley nods. They don't strike him as awfully interesting. Although the legend of Ichesimpal's bones is quite exaggerated, it's an unusual antique. It's definitely not the bone of an animal or a human. The owner lifts his necklace under Priory's nose for a closer look. Look at the smooth texture, this extraordinary sheen. Even if it's not an oracle's bone, it's definitely some kind of artifact used to worship them. How about this? I'll give you a discount, just 200 thil, and you can...
Fee.
No. Somewhat baffled, the owner sighs, then goes onto the storeroom to search for the dictionary, as Porley reverts to his stoic expression. A minute later, the pawnbroker returns with a thick dictionary. He casually hands the aged book to Porley.
A line.
Treat it with care, or else you'll have to pay. Porley thanks the old man and continues his laborious reading. He's not interested in the detailed list of crimes stated in the files, otherwise he would be here all night. Except for a quick reading of the Warnock Brothers list case, that would be a good place for him to start. Unfortunately, he has to wait until he gets to Illy City to decide on a plan. Having made up his mind, Porley puts the files back in the envelope and reaches across the counter for his hunting knife. That's a good knife. A dark shadow falls across the table. It's at this moment that Porley notices the tall stranger's presence staring down at him. How much? I'll take it. The man has a Hokurikan light hair. Yeah, the man has Hokurikan light hair and a high nose bridge. Porley doesn't even lift his brow at these kind of troublemaking gangsters.
Fee.
It's not for sale. He tries to return the knife to his belt to show his disinterest in the confrontation, but the Hokurikan steps forward and grabs him by the wrist. A nice knife like that is a waste in your scallywag hands. Porley stares blankly into the man's face. Nice tie.
Felomzai.
It's a shame to get blood all over it. Before the thug can react, Porley throws a straight punch faster than a falling rock. He's sure the unlucky guy will remember this moment whenever he sees his permanently disfigured nose reflected back at him. As for now, the gangster could do nothing but stagger and try to inhale through his wide-open mouth. After Porley slams him against the wall by his collar and whacks his head on the counter, the man finally realizes he should release his grip on Porley's wrist. So the Hokuruken does. Porley's free hand lays the knife calmly on the counter and reaches out to him. He picks up the man by his belt and collar and throws him out like a dog. It's nice to get some exercise. He turns back to retrieve his knife as the old shopkeeper pokes his head out from under the counter. It's over? Porley reaches out to help him stand. The pawnbroker pushes off his clothes, grumbling. Brushes off his clothes.
Revenge!
Don't mess around in my store. At least do it outside. The shelf is full of antiques these people cannot afford.
Still me.
So it was really you who killed Uri Demiariko with a broken knife. The new voice speaks fluent Promland and Andinomian, with only the slightest hint of accent, and is clearly not in the same class as the other henchmen. Muddled footsteps echo from outside the store. It's safe to say they've got the store surrounded.
Kaya.
Fetch me another dictionary.
Ah.
Didn't I just give you one?
Fee.
No, it wasn't enough. The shopkeeper looks at Porley's face and realizes what he means. You're right. I'll look again. He dives into the storeroom and Porley hears him lock the doors, all three of them. He turns back to face the new visitor. The man looks surprisingly young. A strong, jutting forehead shadows his grey eyes, and his lips press against each other in a grim line.
Hastic?
Your friend?
More a lie.
No need to apologize for that. You were just proving yourself. Porley clicks his tongue. The man's stereotypical line shouldn't be taken lightly. He tries to remember when he'd formed a grudge with the Hokurukens. But after a moment he gives up on the thought. After all, the number of those who want him dead would line up all the way from Skia to Picayena.
You're clear.
So, what's this about? I'm in a hurry.
Kihirian.
Please don't be such a pain in the ass, Mr. Porley Ashfasal. You know why I'm here, and a lot of people would kill to hire someone. A lot of people would kill to hire you if I'm not mistaken.
Kibestarava, Kuritui.
I came here with a job that requires a top-notch expert. 4,000 thil, possibly more. All I want is a man. No extra demands, but quiet and fast. Once again, Porley looks up and down the young man in front of him. The price he offered is worth 12 lives.
Felomzai.
As you said, there are a lot of people trying to hire me, indeed. My schedule is too full for you. He walks past the Hokuruken and out of the door, passing the moaning gang enforcer lying on the floor. This time no one tried to stop him. The Hokuruken thugs stand nearby, staring straight at Porley. Just like an army. Porley didn't look back, nor did he lie. At the moment, the Warnock brothers have their photo lying in his pocket next to his hit list. Okay, so he's going after those two brothers next. Cool, that was this one, right? Yeah, okay, so now we've got this. Let's Zeriel. Shervlet Fisher we've already read. And Raven Windstar. Oh, we've already done Raven Windstar. That's the, I believe that's the autopsy story. Yeah, oh, that's the story of him and his housemate. When his housemate comes in and is wicked drunk, and he takes him... We'll check in a second. We'll just do this one first quickly. Let's Ariel T. Stivek. We'll do this one first. And then we'll do... yeah, and then we'll do the next... We'll check the next one to make sure it is the one I think it is. As usual, the Rosemary pub is bustling with endless chatter and filled with folks of all sorts. Not the Letzeriel minds. How about this? His dexterous hand shifts between the wine bottles and beer barrels, pressing their spouts open. As the liquor fills the glasses, Letzeriel slips the perfectly shaped ice into them, filling the glasses like crystal.
Hey, T.
Here's your whiskey, sir.
Yeah, for sure.
What a show, eh?
Via clear, T.
Anything for you. When the man turns away, Letzeriel's smile drops and he sighs. Yet another night spent in this long and boring shift.
Let's.
Let's.
Eh?
Huh? Oh, Yanni. Don't tell me you want another drink. One more shot and you're going to pass out.
Twanyak.
Shut up and don't make fun of me. I can take plenty of liquor. On the last word, Yanni reveals a shining smile and lifts his thumb to his chest. Tell you a secret. I, Yanni, have been sent here by Mr. Murphy Tulane himself.
Huh?
Sent here?
Vivio!
Yes, and of course they will pay for my tab, so stop nagging about it, Mom. Letzeriel rolls his eyes. Yanni is tooting his horn too much. Among all the mafias, the Tulane group is one of the biggest here in Thalizak, but it's not like they can control the entire city. I'm telling the truth, man. I'm a good drinker, and since I did so well last time, Mr. Tulane said I should drink around here more and keep an eye on what's going on. Letzeriel grins, moving a few inches to the side while replacing the diluted whiskey with a neat one. I heard that. Seriously though, shouldn't you be sobering up and telling me interesting stories instead? After all, we can't have you slurring yourself up all night.
Kairos.
Come on, I know you won't talk to me more. You just want to be cool for all those girls, right? Rubbing those glasses with some girl on your mind? Letzeriel throws his rag at Yanni's face.
Yanni.
Where did you learn such bullshit, Yanni? Hehe. Surprise, I'm quite literal to myself. Quite literate myself, you know. You're not the only one who's always staying at the library with your little blonde girl.
Felomzai.
Of course with her, she works there.
Suderai.
Well then, why does a bartender go so-called day long at the library rather than staying at his bar?
Sexa.
Fine. I tried to win the librarian over to get access to their stash of old newspapers.
Your line, Russ.
I need to check those newspapers. You know I need to charm her just to get access. But that didn't work as planned because a certain somebody got in the way. He's talking to the priest. This is the guy who was in the library with the priest's sister when Haikeno, the priest, Haisano? Whatever his name is, Haisano? Yeah, Haisano, the priest, stepped in and intervened. And then he'd dipped the cap over his eyes and then left without saying anything. Right at the first chapter that we'd read. Anyway, if you ask me, man, you really are in need of some luck. I figured just as much.
Say it.
Hey, Letzeriel, 2 shots of gin for table 6.
Sexa.
I see. He pours the alcohol into the glass while distracted by his own affairs. Perhaps it's because he's back in Promland, his hometown, that he's been so hung up recently. The mysteries have been like phantoms lurking in the dark, always teasing his nerves with their tentacles. He wants to know who he really is. At the age of 2, he was sent to Northland, the country where he grew up alone in a monastery as far from home. What happened back then? If his family is still alive, why did they throw him away? That's why Letzeriel goes to Sir Godrakar Library, where old newspapers could provide him with hints about his past. However absurd or cruel the truth might be, Letzeriel's determined to find out what happened. He's done with the restless nights. He was so close. If only Sandra's brother wasn't in the way. Letzeriel tosses the bottle cap into the trash, resisting the urge to click his tongue in frustration. He rests the 2 glasses of gin on the tray, forcing it into Yanni's hand.
Hey, T.
That's it, jerk. Take it to table 6 if you have nothing to do. Yanni takes the tray and snorts. The same back to you. I'm not here to do your job for you. That said, Yanni delivers them to the customers nonetheless. When he gets back, Letzeriel pours a glass of whiskey for him.
Oh, yo.
That's for you. I'm finished up cleaning, but I'm always open to chat if you're bored. That's what friends are for, right? And buy me dinner after I finish my shift.
Kairos.
Hey, shut up. I'd never even say I'd stay. Despite Yanni's harsh words, though, he stays with Letzeriel, making small talk. Letzeriel is about to conjure up a witty reply when they hear a loud crash of broken bottles. Yanni turns, but his sight is blocked by the crowd as a girl's sobbing drifts from across the room. He scratches his hair restlessly.
Huh?
What the hell's going on? Whatever it is, it's not good. He drops the glass and huddles with Yanni on the outskirts of the crowd. Yanni squeezes into it, and before Letzeriel could even push his head between the drunken men, he hears a swear from Yanni's mouth. A girl is curled up in the middle of the crowd. Letzeriel knows her, a young prostitute who frequently comes to the bar. The girl is on the floor lying on her side, her messy hair is damp with tears, and one of her high heels is being tossed around by a couple of thugs. The young men are clearly not from Tulane, just a bunch of random bastards. One jerk smiles perversely and lifts the girl's skirt. She weeps and tries to cover herself, but gets her collar ripped open for her trouble. Letzeriel bites his lip. The sound of the girl crying and the smug little bastard's laughter sting his eardrums. Damn, can't they do this somewhere else? For a second, Letzeriel is torn. There have already been enough troubles in the bar today as it is, but Letzeriel sighs and approaches the scene. Well, what's going on here?
Huh?
Who the hell are you? Letzeriel looks back at him coldly, hands in his pockets. He isn't scared. Letzeriel knows their kind better than anyone.
Tonyak.
Who do you think you are?
Hey, T.
I would suggest you let that young lady go. She belongs to Tulane Killer, didn't you see? The one who's always sitting in the corner. I'd prefer not to see your heads nailed above the crossroads for everyone to see. Ha! How would you know? It's a bar, sir. I'd recommend apologizing to her right now, or else we'd all be FUCK'd. Even if you're not afraid of Tulane, us bars still have to make a living here. Besides, you guys really don't want to piss off a Tulane Killer now, do ya? His lies are of little use, though. Some of them were probably new and looked at each other uneasily. But the leader saw right through him. The man's feet were planted on the ground, refusing to walk away. Well, shite. One of the gang members grins widely, cracking his knuckles.
Yeah, sir.
You're taking a lot of pain upon yourself, you piece of... Letzeriel kicks a piece of broken bottle. As if the skittering glass were a sign, a gangster on the other side rushes towards him. The prostitute squeals in horror, fussing her skirt up and scurries into the crowd, watching the men break into a fight. At the last second, Letzeriel manages to duck, barely escaping the heavy fist swinging past his head. He quickly circles behind the gangster, wrapping his leg over the man's feet and slamming him to the ground. The thug's body falls with a thud, sending up a cloud of dust. Without giving Letzeriel a chance for a break, the other hoodlums rush in. Letzeriel dodges each attack, though just barely. He returned the hits. Instead, he merely trips them or shoves them out of the way. I think that's supposed to say he doesn't return the hits. It's not that he can't fight. Letzeriel just knows it's almost impossible for him to take on all of these thugs at once. Okay, so he took damage. After dodging another punch, Letzeriel trips, giving them the advantage. As they grab him, he notices that most of the customers are already gone. Seems like someone's running out of luck. The gangsters gathered around him. Their leader spits on the ground and smiles cunningly at him. Letzeriel sees a bottle in his hand. The gang members grab other bottles from nearby and swing them down on him. A split second later, Yanni shouts. The gangster suddenly grunts in pain. Slowly opening his eyes, Letzeriel realizes he's looking at Yanni's back. He turns and smiles at Letzeriel, grabbing a bottle of beer and gulping it down. You're welcome.
Chloe.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
Oh,
Oh, piss off. He wipes his mouth, puts the bottle aside, and helps Letzeriel to his feet. Together they finish driving away the remaining gangsters. Now that the conflict is over, Letzeriel looks around the bar. A few lights are broken, the tables and chairs are in disarray, and the floor is covered with shattered glass. Yanni fist bumps Letzeriel in the chest, who laughs and limps over to lean on Yanni's shoulder.
that's...
Stupid bastard. Next time think twice before saving a beauty, okay? If I didn't show up, you would have gotten your ass kicked. I did. I had a hunch, though. I thought, man, Yanie's gonna save my ass anyway.
Twanyak!
You little bitch. Yanie swears and the two of them burst out laughing. Lazzariel feels better than he has in a long time. Yeah, man, you gotta let it out sometimes, occasionally through someone's fist onto someone's face. The inevitable scoldings from his boss and payment for the damage can all go to hell. They just beat the hell out of a bunch of pathetic little bastards. They laugh and shout, partying as if it were the end of the world. Okay, and this one we've definitely done. That's Chevrolet Fuchsia's first story where she's at the club. This one I'm fairly sure we've done as well. It's Raven Winchar. This is when... We're just going to check, but this is when he's at the apartment. Yeah. And then his housemate comes back. And he's cooking the fish. His housemate comes back and is sick. And then, yeah. And then he gets a phone call. Yeah, so we've done all of these. Brilliant. Then we move on to day 6. And this carries on the story from last night. Lazzariel is awoken by the sound of birds and is still half asleep. He stares at the mouldy spot on the wall, his eyes dry and tired. Being a bartender is really ruining his body's inner clock. Yeah, I can really relate to that. I really like Lazzariel. I like his style. He's quite dapper. He's quite sharp and cunning. And he really reminds me of myself, if I have to be honest. The fact that he's a bartender and he's trying to find out his history and who he is and what purpose he serves is a really cool backstory. Damn it! He closes his eyes and groans. The lack of sleep is turning him into a wilting plant, slowly withering away. The aftermath of the fight didn't really hit him until he woke up. Every aching muscle in his body a hateful reminder. He climbs out of bed in his small room behind the bar, dark circles under his eyes, and stumbles towards the window. His ankle still throbs dully from twisting it during the fight the night before, but he recovers quickly. Maybe because he is young, or his tough life has already made him a man of steel. He has always been confident in his ability to recover. Even better, today is Confess Day. It's still early, a time when the residents who go to the chapel for morning prayers will be keeping the confessor busy. Okay, so he wants to sneak back into the church, basically, to get to the library. Even that strict confessor should have his hands full at this point. Screw the boss and the job, he must attempt to go back to the library, even if he gets fired. An hour later, Lazzariel heads out. His shoes are so polished he can see his reflection in them, and his pants are neatly folded, giving no sign of his swelling ankle. Whistling, Lazzariel maneuvers around other pedestrians, occasionally apologizing to the people he accidentally bumps into. Though the secret injuries are the cause of his clumsiness, no one could possibly blame a polite young fella.
Register!
Excuse me, mister. He turns around. A newsboy is standing behind him, shivering in the cold. He wipes his red nose, smiling at Lazzariel. Lazzariel notices the big canvas bag on his shoulder, the same style he used in his youth. Reminds him of when he sold newspapers on the street for a pittance until it was too dark to continue. Then he would go back to the monastery for some sleep. The newsboy doesn't know what's on Lazzariel's mind. He sniffs and offers a rumpled newspaper to him. I hope you're faring well, mister. I'm selling the Thalizak Morning Post right now. We've got some interesting issues covered here, including the latest progress on the priest murder case. He holds the paper up, tapping the header in bold black ink with the knuckle of his index finger. Has Votru forsaken its flock? Lazzariel briefly glances at it before noticing the photo of the imprisoned suspect down below.
Sudasvia!
And today we have an Intestofia column. From the ravages of the plague to the progress of the recovery so far, and several interviews with Intertofan refugees in Promland have been published too. Well, how about it? Yeah, we bought a newspaper last time. We're going to buy one again this time. Letzeriel moves his eyes from the newspaper, sizing up the boy's scabbed nose and frostbitten face. He reaches into his pocket, counts the coins, and slips them into the boy's hand. Then he pulls a newspaper out of the boy's bag. Okay, I'll take you up on your offer then.
Brother!
Thank you, sir. Votru bless you. Letzeriel soon walks away, leaving the newsboy shouting from behind. He waves the newspaper roll to the boy and squeezes himself into the crowd, waiting for the tram at the stop sign. The huffing and heat of the crowd turns into white mist. Letzeriel quickly moves his way through, breathing out warmth onto his red, stiff fingers and inhaling the aromas of perfume and food. He wants to get rid of his trouble in his hand, but he hesitates and tucks the newspaper into his coat. Letzeriel takes a look at the clock on the platform, noticing the train will arrive in half a minute. Frankly, he just doesn't give a shite. He doesn't care if the priest commits murder, he's not a believer. Those priests are not Votru's humble servants. They are normal people with normal needs like everybody else, with typical desires and defaults. It's only then that the realization hits. The crowd begins moving again. Letzeriel follows through, standing at the end of the line as his hand fumbles with coins. 5, 10, 11... 11 thil cents. Letzeriel fetches them out and lines them up on his palm. It takes 20 cents to Thalizak. Oh, damn. The only thing he can do now is shuffle them back into his pocket and walk away from the queue silently, causing the next girl to dart at him a curious look. Letzeriel just shrugs, feeling his ankle getting worse as he leaves. Shite, he shouldn't have bought that newspaper. Now he will have to walk 4 streets to St. Godhrakar Academy with a limp leg. Isn't that just great? Letzeriel watches the tram whizzing down the tracks and then turns and stumbles towards the sidewalk. Isn't he the luckiest guy in the world? There aren't many passers-by on the road, but the people who are out stare, some openly and others subtly at him, unable to comprehend the idea of a well-dressed cripple. Retreating from the confused glances, Letzeriel takes the newspaper out again and opens to hide his face. He's glad that he didn't toss it away. In Intestofa, due to the spread of the Aryan plague, protesters have gathered in front of Capital City Hall and organised a protest. Well, that's what protesters do. Demanding the immediate development of retreatment. In the last 6 years, nearly a quarter of the country's population has been reduced by the infection, leading to a large number of its citizens moving to the surrounding areas as refugees. The government has been virtually paralysed. So far, Intestofa authorities have not yet responded to the protests, and there are opposition groups using this political unrest to claim that no interest in global news. Letzeriel flips the pages and finally stops when an article at the top in big black letters catches his eye. The serial murder case now closed. Is the wandering priest from the holy city really the criminal? He glances through the rest of the newspaper, saving that headline for last. The author, Truthseeker, apparently conducted an extensive investigation, even going so far as to grant the publisher permission to share the full name of the suspect arrested by the Ili City Police through this article. Letzeriel's eyes linger on the photo of the culprit, wondering why the police would leak out such confidential information, although this report is not exactly breaking news anymore. Turner Keshdozai was not educated in a seminary the way most other priests were. Like his mother and sister, Keshdozai is a refugee from Intestofa. After settling in Thalizak, Turner joined the army and fought on the front lines during Promland's civil war. It was not until he was discharged that he accepted the call of Votru and became a wandering priest. Can this misery turn a normal person into a cold-blooded murderer? Truthseeker devotes a great deal of words to telling the story of Turner's past, introducing the readers to the misfortunes of his childhood and adolescence. The past could change a person's character, which, as some of his words suggest, is what really happened to Father Keshdozai. A good example of how public opinion could be guided by words. Maybe he should say this. Truth Seeker should pay this Truth Seeker a visit later. The article is proof of his extraordinary detective skills. Yeah, that would be a good idea, since you're looking for your past. Finally, Letzeriel arrives at the library. He smiles immediately. He is immediately able to see Sandra.
Oh, yo.
Good day, Sandra. How's it going?
Oh, let's.
Oh, let's. Pretty good. I was scolded by my brother, though. He can be stuffy sometimes. Sandra pouts, her cheek puffed up. Letzeriel couldn't help poking her face. Soon Sandra couldn't hold herself up anymore and burst into laughter. Anyway, what brings you here today?
Moya Stella.
Can't that be you?
Oh,
You're trying to fool me again.
Via Cleati.
No, I mean it. Well, anyway, I was wondering if you could help me with something.
oh.
Sure, with those old newspapers back in 1429? You got me.
Killian.
Oh, all right. Follow me. Let's see what you need.
Go away.
Thanks. Go away. I'm done with you. He takes her hand and follows Sandra to the end of the last row of bookshelves where the old newspapers lie. The cabinet is attached to the wall, and the black walnut door is marked in brass with the name, type, age of the newspaper and the publishing office. Here you go. I arranged them in chronological order. Help yourself, but do put them back when finished. I will be sorting out the new books at the front, so call me when you need me.
Sandra.
Thanks a lot, Sandra. After seeing her off, Letzeriel immediately climbs up the ladder and finds the issue he wants according to the label on the counter above. Here's year 1529, Capital News, anecdote of Sholia Sheba today. Before leaving the monastery in Hokiruka, he stole his own file. June 1529 to February 1544, that was when he stayed at the prison-like orphanage. He is so absorbed in his worthless memory that he slows his moves. When the realization hits, he finds an issue of Capital News, April 1529, in his hand. A good coincidence. Letzeriel clenched the piece of paper. He'd found his own files from the orphanage. It doesn't look like a child's work. If it was really accident that made him an orphan, the truth must hide behind this particular year and month. He takes a breath, opens the newspaper, and puts all the childish timidity behind. All he needs is the truth. But he would not find his truth just yet. 19th, 20th, 21st, 23rd. The document with pages torn out makes Letzeriel freeze in place. No matter what newspaper he looks at, there are no issues that include April the 22nd. Besides that, even when he finds reports on accidents involving families of 3, there is no record of a child's age matching his. Disappointment makes Letzeriel's blood run cold. If an accident involving his family occurred that year, someone is definitely trying to cover it up. Who would that be? Okay, so Letzeriel discovered that someone's trying to cover up whatever happened with his family. Then Letzeriel, we just did that one. This one we haven't done yet, and this one we have done, Hasten-o Mulnathan. This is the Hasten-o Mulnathan. This is the conversation that he has with the bishop who arrives. So we've just got this one to do, and we're all caught up. In fact, actually, I didn't do this one yesterday. This is where I left things off. So guys, I'm going to end the episode there and just check to make sure the stream has gone ahead and everything's worked as it's supposed to have. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching the stream, guys. I do hugely appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed playing. As always, this has been an absolute blast, even though I was just repeating myself from yesterday. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will hopefully see you in the next episode. I produce content every single day, so peace out till next time.